There was a moment with my son when he was expressing to me in quite intense words and language his pain. I don't feel loved. I hate you. Extreme kind of language to express some pain he was feeling. It was when we were travelling in the caravan and he, sort of suddenly stormed out of the dinner we were having together. Nobody cares about me. Nobody cares about me. You all hate me. I don't want to be with you. And he was sort of shutting himself off. And in that moment, the habitual way for me to respond was guilt. What have I done wrong to harm him, was kind of the thought process happening. And I recall catching myself in that moment and taking a moment to connect with my own pain first, noticing what was happening in me, what was happening in my body, and that moment giving me the resources to be able to actually go to him and hear his message without the shame and blame and guilt that I would normally have heard it with. And I sat with him for maybe 2 hours while he processed and said all of the things he needed to say. He came out from under his blanket that he'd been hiding under, and he reached out for a hug and he cried. Yeah. So it kind of shifted from the anger that was on the surface to the sadness that was underneath. It was that point that we got to really go into the depth of what it was that he was remembering or feeling that was painful for him. And I was able to hear it without guilt. And I think this is such a beautiful gift that we can offer our children if we're able to hear their pain without the block of our guilt. Can really receive it and hear it with love. I can use rewards, or I could use consequences, or I could use punishment, or I could use fear. And the thing is, those things might work in an immediate situation. I could probably scare my child into the car. But my experience of that in my own life and in the people I've worked with is that every time I do that, I'm eroding the relationship a little bit. I'm eroding the trust and the connection. And I believe that the real power I have with my child is that connection. That's the power I have with them. And in my experience, in the long run, this creates so much ease. It's like, we're oiling the hinges every time we do that. We're making life so much smoother and simpler, and the flow works so much better for everyone. Like when they're little, yeah, sure, you can pick them up and force them in the car. You can use your physical size and power to make things happen. But as soon as they're bigger than you can't. You can't force a 14-year-old to do something. They only have a couple of options. That they can submit and give in, and then they're losing part of themselves, or they can rebel, and often they will rebel. And if you don't have that relationship to fall back on, that connection, I think you're lost at that point. How can anything happen if you don't have that connection? I would love every parent to learn this, and not just by the time things have started to go wrong, by the time there's pain and challenge in the attachment. I would love them to receive this right from the start. I would love them to have that support for their parenting right from day one, so that children are being born into homes where there's that care and connection, and parents are resourced, internally resourced, to be able to receive their children. And one thing I love about NVC is it works at every level, on the individual level. It works in relationships, it works in families, it works to build communities. So supportive for building community groups and that connection. And then it works on a kind of higher social level to build cohesion. So I would love it at every level. It's kind of one of the simplest and most powerful tools I've found for bringing that kind of connection back between parents and children.